Baghdad during its golden age was absolutely dripping in wealth. For a young man named Sindbad, that meant growing up surrounded by mountains of gold, fine jewelry, and silk that he never had to lift a finger to earn. He possessed a massive fortune, but it was entirely inherited from his late father. He had the power of the purse, but zero real-world experience. He knew how to spend a fortune, but he had no idea how to build one. Sitting in his palatial estate day after day, a creeping restlessness set in. When every meal is prepared for you and every danger is kept outside the city walls, life starts to feel hollow. A life without struggle lacks friction, and without friction, there is no spark. Absolute safety breeds absolute complacency. To figure out who he actually was and to forge a true identity of his own, Sindbad realized he had to voluntarily abandon his guaranteed comfort and step into the unpredictable risks of the outside world. Sindbad took action. He liquidated a significant portion of his inherited estate, bought up a massive stock of trade goods, and secured passage on a merchant ship heading out into the open ocean. The grueling reality of the sea hit fast. Weeks dragged on as they sailed through featureless, uncharted waters. The relentless sun, the rationing of fresh water, and the constant physical labor left the entire crew deeply exhausted. Then, a break in the horizon. The lookout spotted what looked like a miracle: a lush, perfectly green island sitting right in the middle of nowhere. The psychological relief across the deck was instant. But exhaustion clouds judgment. They were so desperate for a break from their hardships that they completely ignored how strange it was for a vibrant forest to be floating in deep water. They mistook a dangerous anomaly for a safe haven. The crew scrambled ashore. They immediately set up camp on the forest floor, gathered wood, and lit a massive cooking fire to celebrate surviving the open water. A few hours in, the environment began to shift. It started as a subtle vibration in the dirt, building into a rhythmic, deep tremor that violently shook the trees around them. This diagram shows the anatomy of the folklore concept known as the zaratan. A zaratan is a mythical, gargantuan sea creature, usually a turtle or whale, so incredibly old that sediment accumulates on its back to form a false landmass. What the crew thought was solid earth was actually layers of sand and deep root systems resting directly on the back of a colossal, dormant whale. The heat from the cooking fire transfers through the topsoil, penetrating the root systems and striking the biological tissue below. This thermal energy acts as a literal alarm clock for a creature that has been dormant for centuries. Nature's most lethal traps rarely look like traps at all. Out in the uncharted wild, the things that will kill you often disguise themselves as exactly what you want to see. The monster abruptly dove back into the black depths. The sudden plunge shattered the false island, instantly throwing the entire crew, their supplies, and the burning logs violently into the freezing sea. Watching the chaos from the safety of his deck, the ship's captain panicked. Instead of throwing lines to his drowning men, he made a split-second, cowardly choice. He hoisted the sails and fled, abandoning them all to save his own vessel. Sindbad was completely alone. Flailing in the churning water, struggling to keep his head above the waves, he managed to survive only by grabbing hold of a single floating piece of driftwood. The ocean doesn't care who your father was or how much gold you have back home. It acts as the ultimate equalizer, violently stripping away Sindbad's inheritance, his allies, and his status, leaving him with absolutely nothing but his raw, naked will to keep breathing. After days adrift, the tide miraculously washed him onto the shores of a completely foreign kingdom. He was entirely stripped of his former identity. He was discovered battered and half dead on the beach by horseprint. King Mirjan is the local monarch of this island realm, known in the folklore for his vast royal stables and highly strategic maritime port. Humbled by his near-death experience, Sindbad relies on his wits. He spends his days at the palace detailing complex trade routes and identifying the rare spices and textiles arriving on foreign ships. He demonstrates an expert-level understanding of global commerce that the king's own advisors lack. King Mirjan recognizes this unique value. He appoints Sindbad as the master of the port, granting him legal authority over every vessel that enters the kingdom's waters. The brutal crucible of the sea forced Sindbad to cultivate real internal value. This appointment shows that true authority and respect are earned through capability and merit, not handed down through family bloodlines. Months later, a familiar merchant vessel pulled into the harbor for inspection. As Sindbad approached the docks, he recognized the sails, hull, and captain. It was the exact same ship that abandoned him to drown. He didn't resort to street violence. Using his newly earned legal authority as portmaster, Sindbad calmly confronted the terrified captain, ordered an inventory of the hold, and rightfully reclaimed every single crate of his stolen cargo. Because these specific Baghdad trade goods were incredibly rare in this foreign kingdom, he sold his reclaimed cargo at an astronomical markup. In one sweeping move, he generated a massive, entirely self-made fortune. Sindbad booked passage back to Baghdad as a triumphant, wealthy man. He returns to his home wealthier than before, but these riches carry a weight his father's gold never did. Every single coin was earned through his own sweat, blood, and survival. Resilience yields massive rewards, but surviving a true crucible rewires the mind. Once a person has faced down death and tasted the raw intensity of real survival, the quiet, safe comfort of a walled city will never be enough. The sea had tested him, and it would eternally call him back.